just don't leave yet because,
Yeah, no, I'll be here.
okay.
Hello, I am Louis DeJoy, Postmaster General and Chief Executive Officer of the United States Postal Service. I am pleased to announce that the presidents of the 4 postal unions have agreed to work with the Postal Service on a joint leadership task force. This new partnership will enhance our work with election officials and jurisdictions throughout the country. We will address issues relating to voter education and best practices of the stakeholders in administering mail-in voting for the 2020 election. I am here with the union presidents to talk about the upcoming election season. 2020 has been an unprecedented and challenging year for our nation. The coronavirus pandemic has been disruptive to our economy and our daily lives. Yet throughout this pandemic, even with all the uncertainties, the men and women of the United States Postal Service have delivered for the American public. Our entire organization is working toward the same objective, to ensure that we fulfill our role in the electoral process and maintain the trust of the American public.
We take great pride in our mission of service to the nation and knowing that our customers can rely on us. And we will continue to be that source of reliability and consistency as we head into the 2020 election season. COVID-19 is still with us, and millions of people will be voting by mail, many for the first time. We are fully committed to ensuring that every voter can rely upon the men and women of the United States Postal Service to deliver ballots and other election mail securely, accurately, and on time. We're excited to work together in this task force to ensure that our successful history of handling election ballots continues as we respond to our expanded role in the electoral process.
The men and women of the Postal Service live, work, and serve in every community in America, large and small, rural and urban. We are committed to enabling the voting process for thousands of election jurisdictions and to connect our customers to their nation through the electoral process. We take great pride in this responsibility.
We have proven robust practices and procedures for processing election mail efficiently and with integrity, and a long history of meeting the expectations of the voting public. In every post office and processing facility, the Postal Service has the ability to process and deliver the high volumes of election mail expected in the coming weeks. We are highly focused on this task. Postal workers are ready and committed to deliver for our country.
The Postal Service has a long history of supporting the electoral process, and this year is no exception. We work with election officials and mailers to ensure that the process runs smoothly. We also work internally to reinforce our best practices for mail handling and timely, secure delivery. The American public can count on the Postal Service to deliver this year's election mail.
Many states and localities are introducing or expanding options for mail-in voting. And that's why we've invested in major educational efforts to inform and support America's election officials. And because the election rules for voters may differ throughout the country, we are providing resources for voters so they can make informed decisions about their preferred voting method. For voters who choose to use the mail to cast their ballot, we ask them to be mindful of their state election rules and to request and return their ballots as early as possible. We want to be sure that when you use the mail to vote, your vote will be counted. Rest assured, the Postal Service remains fully committed to the timely and efficient processing of ballots. The volume of election mail may be higher this year, but we're ready for it. We are proud to play such an important role in America's electoral process. You can have great confidence in the 630,000 men and women of the United States Postal Service and in our ability to deliver America's election mail. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Um, Welcome to Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble's presentation of the truth and myth of voting by mail. My name is Angela Estela. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I'm a proud Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble and board member. Joining me behind the scenes during this event are two more ensemble members, Santi, Sámano, and Victoria, Yvette, Zepeda, who both prefer the pronouns they, their, and they will be teching for us to make sure this event runs smoothly. Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble believes in the transformative power of theater, and we aim to raise awareness of critical issues in the community, entertain and challenge, foster cross-cultural understanding, and be a catalyst for personal healing and social justice. In order to make our programming accessible to all, we make it available at no cost. This is made possible in part by donations by people from people like you. Please visit our website, breathofire.org, and click on the PayPal icon in the upper left-hand corner. Your contribution will help us continue presenting informational programs like this and quality workshops facilitated by nationally recognized writers, playwrights, and actors. I just want to let everybody know that the information you will be receiving during this event is specific to the state of California. So if you are joining us from another state, please make sure to check on your state's deadlines and voting regulations. Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble resides in Santa Ana, and I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are in the homelands of the Ahashiman and Tongva peoples. Despite still not being federally recognized, the Ahashiman and Tongva continue to act as stewards of the land and living waters. I challenge us all to take some time to look up and support their efforts. Now I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Tish Leon. And before I do, I'd like to ask the audience to mute your microphones and stop your videos during the presentation. You will be able to turn them back on after for the audience participation. Tish Leon is a senior advocate. She's a member of Senior Citizen Advisory Council of Orange County, where she sits on the Tech Committee, which is working to improve internet access and technical support for seniors. She's also chair for the Orange County chapter of California Alliance for Retired Americans. Hi, Tish.
Hi, thanks, Angela. I'm really excited about doing this today, and we have three amazing panelists that are joining us. Neal Kelley from the Registrar of Voters here in Orange County, Harold Kelso from the California Letter Association, I hope that's correct, and Armida Brashears from the League of Women's Voters here in Orange County, and also a super activist for many, many years. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with some questions. First up, I'm gonna start off with Neal, and then we're gonna go from there. So Neal, again, thank you so much for joining us. I've always admired all the work that you've done for us here in Orange County. And first off, the last Sunday, I just happened to turn on Meet the Press and just happened to see that they were interviewing you. And a couple of things that they said was that Orange County is the most prepared over the state, which I think is amazing. But you also said something that the voting by mail is more secure than any other method. So can you explain that?
Well, good morning, Tish, and thank you everybody for having me this morning. I appreciate it. Yeah, I actually meant that because there's a lot of discussion and dialogue taking place at the national level that's not really focusing on all of the secure aspects of vote by mail voting. It's not just the Wild West, and I think that's something that we need to be very clear about. There are a number of checks and balances for voters that use a ballot through the mail, including only a single ballot is printed per voter. There are security measures in place to ensure that ballots can't be photocopied. There are measures in place that check the signature and verify the voter's record and the history of signatures to what's signed on the ballot. All of those things, well, many of those things don't take place in in-person voting in California. And I'm not making a statement on in-person voting. I would encourage people that want to go vote in person in California. But the reality is you can see just by my comments, there's a lot more security measures in place when you're talking about election security in ballots through the mail versus in person. And that's what I meant by that.
Okay, great, thank you. What are all of our options to vote?
So it boils down to three main things that you can do. One is you can cast your official ballot that you receive through the mail. Every voter will receive one through the mail in Orange County. That's almost all 1.7 million voters. We're almost up to 1.7 million. And once you have that ballot, you have different options to return it. You could return it into a secure ballot drop box. You could deliver it to a vote center. And your other option is, of course, to return it through the mail, postage paid. You no longer have to put a stamp on it. So there's definitely those options there on the mail side. For in-person voting, we will open in-person voting starting on October the 30th, and it will run for 5 days. That will be about 170 locations throughout Orange County, and we'll release that information on those locations here in the next day or two. And I have, Tish, if it's okay, I have a 30-second broadcast commercial that I'd like to show.
Sure.
Because it explains those options and really kind of focuses on, allowing people to vote at home, being a safe and secure option under COVID. So give me just 2 seconds and I will get this up.
This November, the easiest way to vote is at home, using your ballot that comes in the mail. And the safest way to vote while preventing exposure to COVID? That's also at home, using your ballot that comes in the mail. You even have choices for how to return your ballot, at a secure drop box, at a vote center, or through the mail. Voting has never been so easy, safe, and secure. For more information, visit ocvote.com.
And that, Tish, is a part of a very extensive campaign that we are launching, and it's starting essentially this week, and we'll run through Election Day.
Oh, that was a great video, and that definitely answers that question. So about approximately how long will it take to, you think, to count all the ballots?
You know, one of the things that I did within days of the March primary is I realized that with COVID exploding like it was, worst case scenario for us in the fall would have been to have a all vote by mail ballot election. In other words, no in-person options. And so what I did immediately was to order some additional equipment that expanded our capacity to allow for us to process all ballots through the mail if we had to. So the answer to your question is, we're going to be fully caught up with all the ballots received through the day before Election Day. And that will probably be, I'm guessing, close to 600,000 plus, maybe more. And I'll post those results at 8:05 on election night. And then once we receive ballots on Election Day and those that have been put in the mail after that, I'm forecasting about 2 weeks for that to be completely done. Because I'm expecting total ballots of about 1.2 million that will be cast.
Thanks. Now, Neal, I know that is specifically Orange County. Do you think that the other counties are as prepared?
No. And I don't say that in a negative way. I just think the problem is that, you know, we have spent several years here, Tish, in Orange County, gearing up toward this platform of all vote, a lot of vote by mail combined with vote centers. And that took us years to get to that point. You're talking about counties that were just told essentially in a few months, you have to expand so that you can process vote by mail ballots in large numbers. They've done a great job. Everybody's working hard. Our hearts are all in the right place. But I think some counties are going to have to rely on vendors to be able to help them, and that may delay some of the process. But I think one important point, if I could just make this last point, is that in California, we have 30 days to count the ballots. That's under state law. And the reason for that is the volume. And certainly all election officials will have that done.
Okay, thank you. I've noticed quite a few of those vote by those drop boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what they're called, right? How do you plan to how do you figure out where to put those? Is this strategically done, and where are they safe?
Yeah, once we started moving towards the Voters' Choice Act, and we started that process a few years ago, and started building that infrastructure, in that law, there's a requirement to look at 11 data points, and it's very detailed data. So we have to look at voter density, turnout, vehicle ownership, transit, all these different factors go into play on where we would place a drop box. Once we have all that data, then we score it. And on a map, it would show us, for instance, in this part of the neighborhood, it scores very high, and in another part of the neighborhood, it scores very low based on that data. And so that's how we started to work about placing those drop boxes. I want to say one thing though, when we started going down that path before the primary, there were a lot of people that didn't want that big box in their neighborhood. They didn't want it on their property. It was a challenge. And when we got past the primary, everyone was knocking down our door because they wanted those drop boxes. We had over 150,000 voters use them in the primary, which was great. And I think we're going to end up probably with several 100,000 that will use them in the presidential election.
Thanks. And are those permanent fixtures now?
They are. We enter into 5-year license agreements with the property owners, and they are bolted into the ground. They're 1,000 pounds a piece in heavy military grade metal. And unfortunately, if a car hits it, the car is going to be destroyed and not the box. And I've seen that firsthand because we've had a car hit one of our drop boxes. So they're very secure and safe.
Okay, great. Thank you. And have you been communicating with the Postal Service, the USPS?
Yeah, I think the post office is a great partner of ours. We have worked very closely with them for years, as you can imagine, as vote by mail growth has expanded. I have a good relationship with our leadership team here in Orange County with the post office. And in fact, I'm meeting with them next Wednesday, I believe, in the coming week. And we work together very closely. In fact, I have postal employees that come on site and work with us in weighing the mail and doing the paperwork on site. So we have a great partnership.
Great. And a lot of people want to know about tracking their ballot. And once I go on there and because I've been using it myself for a couple of years. And so I track it and I see that you received it, but it hasn't been counted. Mm-hmm. What can I do?
So I'm glad you brought that up. And if I could just put a website out there real quick, ocvote.com/track, TRACK. That will allow a voter to sign up for that service. I'm glad you're doing that, Tish, because I want every voter to use that service. You can sign up to get text messages, so it will tell you when we've mailed it, and you get all those things. In answer to your specific question, if you see that we've received it and it has not been counted, I would encourage you to continue to look back, especially when the volume gets heavy. It can take several days for it to hit the scanning portion and to be approved. If you still don't see it and you're concerned about that, you can call my office and we can look into it for you. But what will be posted, and this is a really important point, is if your ballot is rejected for any reason, it's missing the signature, it doesn't match, you're going to see that data on that website that we're talking about. And then you'll have an opportunity in California. We're one of the few states that allows voters to hear that even past election day. So that's an added protection for any postal delays that might occur or for the issues you're describing where the ballot might be rejected. But again, I just think everybody should look at that, because if you track your Amazon package, why aren't you tracking your ballot? That's one of the things I tell people.
Valid point. And you mentioned about rejection, and that was, what are the most common reasons the ballot is rejected?
Absolute number one out of the gate is they don't sign it. That is unfortunate, because I see thousands of those every election. And we have done a lot of work in that packet to make plain language easy to understand. We do it in all the supported languages here in Orange County so that voters if they just follow that checklist and they make sure they sign that ballot at the end, they're going to be good. The second reason is because the signature does not compare to the original record. Now, those are lower numbers than we've seen in the past. We've got a lot of younger voters that are entering into the system where their registration is coming to us from DMV. So that signature comes over from their driver's license. And that's good because, younger voters, they're excited about getting that driver's license and they typically sign the same. My signature has changed over the years, and I use my credit card signature on one thing and I might sign official documents another way. So I'm always just encouraging voters, just sign it like you would your official documents. Like, for instance, your checking account, your taxes, those kinds of things. That's what I encourage people to do. But the reality is, and this is the one point I want to leave you with, my job as an election official is to enfranchise as many people as possible. And I'm not out to reject ballots. If we have a similarity in that signature, we're going to allow it to go through. But again, there's that fail-safe. If for any reason we think it doesn't match, the voter has a chance to cure that issue.
Okay, great. And one last question before I move on is how prepared are you as far as in-person voting, volunteers, locations?
We are running, the best way I can describe it, as a military operation. And I feel that the team has done an excellent job of preparing for everything under this COVID environment. We are right now just shy about 9 vote centers for what we need for the full 170. We are at about 60% on our recruitment for our poll workers and those employees that will work in the vote centers. And as I speak right now, we are printing ballots in Santa Ana. So that is underway. And so all of these preparations coming together, especially with all the work we've done on COVID, you're going to walk into a vote center, I believe, and you're going to feel that it's a safe place to vote with all the protections that we're taking. And without going into all of that detail, ocvote.com/COVID describes everything we're doing in that planning process.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Neal. And I know we're going to have more questions for you at the question and answer opportunity.
Sure. So thank you.
Harold, thanks again for joining us. It's really great to have a representative of the post office here. So one of the questions is, how is the USPS prepared for the voting by mail?
Well, the USPS is prepared, the infrastructure is in place. And just let me give everybody a point of reference. Every December, the Postal Service handles 2 to 3 billion Christmas cards across the country. That being said, every December, they put out a date. Usually it's 15 days before Christmas to let everybody know that in order for your card or maybe your Christmas package to be delivered by Christmas Eve, you need to have that mailed by that date. And I'm going to suggest the very same thing for those that are going to use the mail to vote. The date I am suggesting people get their ballot back in the mail is October the 20th, a full 2 weeks before Election Day. There won't be any delay of that getting to the registrar of voters within a week's time, usually 2 to 3 days. But the other reason that I suggest an early date, Neal touched upon it, if there's something wrong with your ballot, the registrar's office can contact you and let you know that you can correct it. And like he said, usually it's the lack of a signature. The Postal Service will do their part, the registrar's office will do their part, but the third piece of the puzzle is the individual voter bears a responsibility too. They need to make sure they read the instructions on the ballot and follow them to the letter and mail it back in a timely fashion. Orange County shouldn't have any problem. Orange County had a good practice in the primary, in the March primary. They were one of the few counties that went all vote by mail. There were 15 counties and they were one of the 15. There are other counties in California that are trying this for the first time. Now, I'm completely confident that the Postal Service can handle this. There's been talk about them taking sorting machines offline and taking the blue collection boxes off the street. And they do that, as a matter of fact, every year. The reason a lot of these machines have been taken offline is during the pandemic, letter mail, the volume of letter mail has dropped dramatically. So they don't need to be running all the machines at one time. So the ballots will be processed quickly and securely. When you give your ballot to your mailman, outgoing mail, that ballot is actually given preferential treatment when they come back to the office. It's not sorted in with the rest of that day's outgoing mail. It's pulled out separately and put in a tray. So it's actually given better than first-class treatment. That's the same way they treat Christmas cards at Christmas.
Okay, thanks. That's well, you answered all my questions. No, just joking. I do. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, I need to put extra postage on my ballot." So, can you clarify that myth?
They changed the law in California. Well, throughout the state of California now, all mail-in ballots are postage paid. They're postage paid. No one needs to put any extra postage on it. In fact, here's a nasty little secret. In the past, when people forgot to put a stamp on the ballot, the post office delivered it anyway.
Thanks, thank you. And so many people I know really respect their postal carriers. So here's a shout out to them. You know, they are one of our local heroes. And just a personal question. What do you think is better, to go by snail mail or to drop it off at the drop box?
That would depend on the individual voter's circumstances. There's a lot of people that cannot leave the house. Vote by mail was actually created for elderly people, for shut-ins. What about all the folks in nursing homes? They certainly have a right to still vote. If it was up to me, I vote by mail every year. I have. On election day, there is no busier person besides the folks at the polling places. The letter carriers are very busy. They're out there on election day, usually till 6 or 7 p.m. So a majority of the letter carriers vote by mail themselves. And then that's they're agreeing that they think their vote is safe and secure and will be counted. And remember, voting this way, you eliminate the risk of any hackers. There's all this publicity, this bad publicity about Chinese or Russian hackers into the system. Well, you vote by mail with a ballpoint pen and you do it correctly, there's no way it can be hacked.
Okay, thank you. And just one more question, and I know you already touched on it, but if you could again, all the recent cuts to the Postal Service, will that affect the voting by mail at all?
No. They have lost quite a few employees. There have been quite a few employees that have been affected by COVID. So the processing centers were undermanned for a time. They've attempted to refill those positions, and they've done a pretty good job. After his 2 hearings in Congress, the new Postmaster General was under so much fire about the safety and the proficiency and the security of vote by mail. So that's why he formed that task force that you showed the video from before we started here. So everyone in the Postal Service is pulling on the same end of the rope. Management and all the unions, all the trade unions, letter carriers, clerks, mail handlers, even the rural carriers. We all know what an important responsibility this is for the USPS. And you can count on us to do our job.
Okay, thank you so much, Harold. And I know we'll probably have some questions for you later as well.
Sure, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no, thank you. Armida. Yes. Thank you for joining us. And I've always been a fan of the League of Women Voters. I know that you have helped me in the past with my proposition forums, so thank you for joining us. What exactly does the League of Women Voters do?
The Women Voters studies issues in depth so that we can educate and guide our members and the general public. And we've been doing this for 100 years. Just as soon as women obtained the vote after 70 years, 70 years of working to get the vote. When we got it, we decided this is precious and valuable, and we're gonna use it wisely and do a good job of educating our members and the general public.
Well, thanks for saying that, because that's one of my questions is how and what are you doing to get the message out there right now, especially to those voters who are apathetic and, oh, my vote doesn't count, what difference does it make? So what do you do to encourage those people to vote?
Well, we contact many organizations in the county, such as Women For and other groups that are nonpartisan, and we make presentations with brief explanations, and whoever one of our members goes out to make the presentation, they're well versed in what each proposition is about. And for anyone who's interested in our recommendations, they can go to our website, which is League of Women Voters Orange Coast, which is our local league, or they can go to the California website, League of Women Voters of California, and they can see all of the propositions there explained, and also the recommendations that the league has. So we have many ways of helping people. We also have what we call the Voter's Edge. That is also available through our website, and that gives you information about the candidates. So we have two ways or two issues to help you with candidates and also the propositions.
That's great, because that was, again, another one of my questions was a lot of people don't, they're confused by the propositions of who do I vote for, especially here in Santa Ana. We have so many people voting for so many of the different seats. So do you do the local races as well, or is it as to like, I want to know about the person who's running for mayor? Do you help with that?
We try to contact all of the candidates, from the mayor to the council people to the state candidates and the federal candidates. So we go from the bottom right up to the top. We try to have that information ready. We ask these candidates to participate. Now, whether or not they participate, it's up to them. However, the material that you're going to be getting from the Registrar of Voters booklets, the voters guides, those will also have some candidate statements. It's up to the candidates whether or not they participate, but they're offered that opportunity.
Great. And then are there any proposition forums or candidate forums that the League of Women Voters are moderating? Well, that we should be aware of?
Yes, we're having a presentation, and it's part of the slides that are with this presentation. It tells you about one that's going to be online, and it's we're working with the Women For organization, which is a nonpartisan group too. That will be online. So look at one of these slides. It gives you that information.
Great. And I know that this is Orange County specific, but are the other counties or statewide, are they doing the same thing?
Yes, all the leagues all over California have their own websites, so they cover the local issues in their area, yes.
Great. And you were telling me a story when some of us got together about how you actually went to the Registrar of Voters and you witnessed the process. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we went as observers to see the count, and it was just impressive. I don't know if they had 100 or more than 100, but they had tables all over this large room and just stacks of ballots. I mean, you know, just individual ballots stacked up, and people were inputting the information. So it's a real big job to count all the ballots, but the Registrar of Voters is doing a heroic job.
So how did you learn about this, and can anybody, I know that Neal probably could answer this as well, but you as a participant, how did you find out about it? How did you sign up to do it?
Well, we did it through the League of Women Voters. So as a group, we offered that opportunity to our members, and many of our members participated. But there were a lot of other people that were not in the league. So maybe Neal, Kelley can tell you how you can sign up to be an observer if you wish.
Yeah, Neal, can you answer that?
Sure. Actually, we have, I'm going to say in the next week or so, all the things that we're releasing are coming in next week. I wish I had everything for you now, but we're releasing a new observer handbook. It will be at ocvote.com/observe. And that will include, just like what was being talked about on the in-person observation, but it will also now have remote observation. You'll be able to go online and see the whole process remotely, including the verification of signatures if you go through an approval process and you sign disclaimers and you qualify. So lots of opportunities for observation, and I really do encourage that because it just shows the transparency in the process and gives people more confidence.
That's great, thank you. And then you say that they will be able to do that online?
They'll be able to do it online, and because of COVID, we're going to have to limit the in-person observation. Armida talked about the party we had not too long ago where we had several hundred people observing. We're not going to be able to do that under COVID.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to limit the observation to reps from a specific candidate or a campaign or parties, etc.
Okay, so then mainly is it the candidates that will most likely do this?
Well, I mean, there's always a variety of folks. Sometimes we get, people that are bringing their kids in because they want to show them the process. To, folks like the League of Women Voters, and then campaigns. Certainly the parties are very engaged in that. The campaigns, they will come in and battle it out. That's something that I deal with every election, so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, all three, for doing this. Again, Neal, I think the Registrar of Voters, to me, you're our local rock star, the way that you're handling this whole thing, and especially during the pandemic. So I want to open it up to the audience to see if there's any questions out there. I know that I do have some. So let me see. Okay, here's the question. And this will probably be for Neal. Can I pick up ballots from various people and drop them off myself?
You can. AB 1461 was a law passed not too long ago that allows people to do that. There's no limit in California on the number that you can collect. There's a new requirement in the law that you have to deliver the ballots to my office within 72 hours of collecting them. And you might hear it referred to as ballot harvesting. That's not the name of the bill, but that's what it's about.
Okay, and do I have to sign anything, or?
Well, there's a place on the envelope that for you to fill out that you're the one that's picked it up, and you write in your name and you sign it and you indicate the relationship. Used to be you had to be a relative, and now it can be anybody. But while we encourage people to do that, the law does not require that to be filled out, which means we're not going to disenfranchise a voter if it's not filled out. There's a lot of controversy about that law. You know, some people really don't like it, but it is the law of the land, and it's here to stay.
Okay, thank you. How can I volunteer? How can I volunteer to be a poll worker or whatever other opportunities there are?
We would love to have you. I've got a whole team in the office today doing nothing but recruiting, and real simple. This website is up and running, ocvote.com/jobs, JOBS. And it's real simple. You go through a process and we'll contact you ASAP.
So it's very easy. Anybody can volunteer.
You can volunteer. We're now in an employee-based program instead of a volunteer program because it's longer commitment, but absolutely, we'd love to have you.
So it's like a part-time job then?
Exactly. It's just like a part-time job. And the commitment is about 7 days once you take into training into to account, and then plus the in-person voting.
Okay. Cecilia has a question. So Cecilia, do you want to unmute yourself and ask that question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to type it, but I'm not that fast of a typer. It's been said, I'm not going to say who, that if you vote by mail and you want to make sure that the post office is doing their job, you can go and vote again at the polling place.
Oh.
How do they, you vote by mail, they haven't, they don't start counting the ballots until election day. So how can you deter this? Because I do call people and I tell them to, it's voting and so forth. And this is one of the questions they've been asking me. And hopefully I'm answering it correctly.
Yeah. Tish, can I take that? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
I've never been in a position in my life to beg people not to break the law. And I've found myself doing that over the last several weeks and months. Voting in California twice is a felony. And it doesn't matter if your ballot has not showed up as counted yet or not. Once you submit that ballot to our office, you voted. That's it. If you go to a polling place and a vote center to vote, and you insist on still voting, my team's not going to get in a conflict with you. We'll allow you to vote a provisional ballot, put in suspension, but that information then goes to the district attorney's office. So I'm just encouraging people, track your ballot. If you have a concern that your ballot has not been received by my office, you'll be able to contact us long before if you're tracking it. And like Harold talked about, gives you time to cure that issue. So again, I'm really getting word out there, begging people, don't go commit a crime.
Also, one more question.
Thank you. Okay, please, Cecilia, make it brief, please.
Okay, just real quickly. I've had two questions is that they voted and they've received in the mail that their ballot was not counted because of the signature. And they said, well, what do I do? I mean, this is how I sign or? Yeah.
So that's where I answered really quickly. So when they get that information in the mail, they'll have an opportunity to sign an affidavit and they can return that to my office. And then we will activate their ballot. So it doesn't matter. They don't have to try and compare what they signed. It's the affidavit that they're attesting to, and that will take care of it.
Okay, thank you. If anybody, if you would like to unmute yourself and turn on your camera, that would be a good opportunity for you to ask the question as well. In the meantime, I do have a couple that did come through.
I just wanted to notice that Harold had his hand up too.
Oh, okay, Harold.
Also, I wanted to piggyback on something that Neal said earlier about tracking your ballot. If you do not live in Orange County and you want to track your ballot, you can go to the California Secretary of State website and sign up to track your ballot there. It's a very simple process. It took me 5 minutes to sign myself and my wife up. They want your name, your birth date, and the mode of the way you want to be communicated with, your phone number or your email address. So I just wanted to throw that in there. We might have some people watching that maybe live in San Bernardino or Riverside County, and I wanted them to know that they could also track their ballot.
That's a good point.
Yeah, thank you. That's a valid point. Can a homeless person vote? Neal.
Yes, absolutely. We have quite a few homeless individuals that are registered to vote. When they register, they only need to tell us the physical location of where they're at. They don't have to have a permanent residence. And once they make that registration complete, we'll precinct them. And then that's the area where their ballot would be concentrated on. In other words, the contest within that precinct. Most individuals who are homeless then provide us some sort of a mailing address at some location. And if not, they are able to either return it to us or get assistance from us on returning the ballot.
And do you know like the percentage to homeless? Do they actually do vote?
Yes, I mean, I personally talked to some homeless individuals who have cast ballots and talked to them about the process. So I absolutely know it's occurring and taking place. I don't have data for you, Tish, but absolutely it is occurring.
Good, good. So is there any outreach to our homeless population about voting?
No, there's not an outreach program because it's difficult to contact some of them. When we do the counts in the county for the homeless counts, that's an opportunity for us to do some outreach on voting. And that takes place every year. So that's something certainly we can look at.
Okay. And I can, another question is, can I pick up my ballot?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do that at our office in Santa Ana or any vote center starting October 30th. If you want to go in there and just get a replacement ballot, we'll void your old one and we'll print you a brand new one.
And I actually did that the last election. I actually changed my vote, and I actually looked up on the internet, how do I do this? Because I've never done that. And so I just went to the Registrar voter office there on Grand, and she voided mine and actually showed me the proof that she put it in this big old plastic bag and gave me the option, do you want to vote in person or do you want another ballot? And since I haven't voted in person in such a long time, I voted in person. So it's really good to know that option because a lot of people do make mistakes.
Right.
So,
Well, and one other quick thing. So this cycle, because of COVID, if a voter has difficulty getting their ballot for any reason, and we have sent them a second ballot, they don't get it, they can now use an online service where they can mark their ballot online and print it out and be able to mail it back to us. So that's going to be available for all voters as a solution. They're not voting online, they're just marking it online and printing it out.
and where do you find that?
On our website, I know I keep throwing a bunch of web URLs at you, but ocvote.com/RAVBM, like Robert, Adam, Victor, Bravo, Mary.
And is that only Orange County?
No, that's statewide in California because of COVID. So the legislature opened that up for all voters because of COVID-19.
Wow. Now, see, I learned something today. Thank you, Neal.
And you'll see that all in the voter guide as well. There'll be information in there about that.
Okay. And when does the voter guide come out?
We're going to mail that on September 24th. So we're going to make Harold's life very busy in a few weeks.
Really good. Are there any more questions,
like
Angela?
We have about 5 minutes left for questions, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, Armida?
I'm wondering, this is a question for Neal Kelley. I'm wondering if you can't remember all those little deals that you gave us, how to find it. If we just go to your website, is there a way to look up each kind of question or issue or something like that?
Absolutely. We have an FAQ section that details all of this out, or you can type in the search box and find what you're looking for as well.
And Neal, another question before we start wrapping things up. How about social media? Are you guys on social media, and how can we share and promote and help the Registrar voters and the post office to really get the message? I mean, I try to do my best, but I would like to share more information.
Thank you. I'm smiling because we're very active on social media, especially after news reports come out. We're very active. But we are on Twitter at OC Registrar, and we're on Facebook at facebook.com/OCROV.
You guys are rock stars.
Oh, thank you.
Totally.
And I've got a really good team there on the social media side. We're engaging with voters every day. So, yeah.
Okay. And Harold, what about the post office?
Let me remind everybody, the ballots should be coming out the first week in October, which would give you a good 2 weeks to make your choices. Try to get that ballot back in the mail by the 20th. If you can't, remember that you have to have it postmarked on the election date, November the 3rd. It's got to be postmarked by that date. And then it can be received and counted. Correct me if I'm wrong, Neal, they changed it up to 17 days.
Correct.
You're
right, Harold. Yeah, up to November 20th. That's correct.
It was last election, it was only 3 days after the election.
That's
They
right.
pushed it up to 17 days. Thankfully, they changed that law in California. It used to be when you wanted to vote by mail, they had to receive your ballot by 8 p.m. on election day. And when I delivered mail, I would pick up ballots. People would try to mail them on election day, and I'd have to go up to the house and knock on the door and tell them, look, your vote's not going to be counted unless you drop this at a polling place, because it's going to be received a day or two after election day. But we're thankful for that law in California. Let me remind everybody again, the Postal Service is completely capable, ready, willing, and able to handle your vote by mail ballots.
Great. Armida, do you have any final words you'd like to share? You're on mute.
League of Women Voters is available 24/7. Just go online. League of Women Voters Orange Coast is your local league, but League of Women Voters California, they have a very ample website with many, many answers to any of your questions on the propositions or the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. And Neal, you have any final thing you'd like to add?
I'm just going to take an opportunity to say how much I appreciate the post office, because they're great partners of ours, and how much I appreciate the league, because the league does fantastic work as well. So I want them to have the credit here. I want to say thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Okay. And I want to thank Angela for reaching out to me.
Yes.
With this amazing idea to do this. And when she called me and asked, what can we do to all these myths and rumors and misinformation that's going out there? And so I said, well, the first person we need to call is the Registrar Voter. We need to get Neal Kelley on board. And then we mentioned the post office and then the League of Women Voters. And so Angela, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to, first of all, you're welcome, everybody. And thank you all for agreeing to participate. I enjoyed this panel so much. Thank you, Tish, Senior Super Advocate. Thank you, Harold Kelso, California State Association of Letter Carriers. Thank you, Armida, Brashears, League of Women Voters, and thank you, Neal Kelley, OC Registrar of Voters. I also would like to thank Victoria and Santi, super tech divas, made this run so smoothly. And I also want to thank the Fire Latina Theater Ensemble for allowing me to host this event. Please go to breathofire.org to sign up for our newsletter so you can be appraised of upcoming events, like our upcoming production of Stage Stories, which is next Saturday, September 19th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. So if you go to our website, you can RSVP and then you will be sent the link. Also, please stop by our donation page and make a contribution to keep our programming going. This event will be available on our YouTube channel, which is Breath of Fire Theater, starting tomorrow for anyone who was not able to attend today. So please let your family and friends know that it will be a great place to get some great information. And if you want to go to the YouTube channel and watch it again so you can get any information that maybe you weren't able to jot down today. So thank you very much again, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Bye.
And vote.
Thank you.
Bye.